Most people roll out of bed and step straight into chaos, emails, news, messages, noise, and then they wonder why the day feels out of control. But there's one simple shift you can make in your mornings that will flip the entire script. It's not about waking up earlier or working harder. It's about owning the first moments of your day with intention. This single habit can clear your mind, sharpen your focus, and multiply your results faster than you thought possible. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what it is and how to start tomorrow morning. Picture this. The world is still asleep, the streets are quiet, your phone hasn't started buzzing yet, no emails, no calls. No noise, it's just you and the day ahead of you, untouched. That's a rare thing in today's world, and if you learn to capture it, it changes everything. Most people never get to experience that stillness because they wake up and step straight into someone else's demands. They let the day happen to them instead of happening to the day. But in these early hours, before the rest of the world starts pulling on you, you have a window. A window where your mind is clearer, your body is more rested, and your spirit is more open to direction. When you start before the world wakes up, you're not competing with noise, you're not distracted by notifications or what's trending online. You're not reacting to someone else's problems, you have the mental space to think deeply, plan clearly, and set the tone for everything that follows. And here's the truth, the way you start is often the way you finish. If you begin in chaos, you carry that chaos with you. But if you start in calm, with clarity, it's like setting the sails before you push out to sea. The wind works with you instead of against you. Now, I get it, waking up earlier doesn't sound appealing to everyone. But this isn't about becoming a morning person, it's about becoming a purpose person. If your mornings are currently rushed, distracted, and full of noise, you're starting your day already at a disadvantage. You're playing catch up, and no one wins a race by starting late. This is about shifting your mornings from being reactive to proactive. From I have to I choose to. That small shift in the first hour can change the next 23. Think about it, the most influential leaders in history, whether they were building nations, writing books, or leading movements, all understood the value of those early hours. They didn't treat mornings like an inconvenience to get through, they treated them like an opportunity to set the stage. And this isn't just about productivity, it's about alignment. It's about getting your mind, your body, and your spirit working in the same direction before life starts throwing curveballs at you. In the morning, your brain is in a different state. Science calls it the alpha state. You're more creative, more open to problem solving, more able to see possibilities instead of problems. That's why ideas hit you in the shower, or why a solution to yesterday's issue suddenly appears in your mind when you wake up. You're literally wired for breakthroughs in those first moments. But here's the danger: if you fill that space with noises, scrolling, checking messages, jumping into tasks, you waste the most powerful part of your mental energy on things that don't matter most. This is why starting before the world wakes up is less about the time on the clock and more about the intentional space you create. Even 30 minutes of quiet, undistracted focus can set you up to do more in your day than most people do in a week. And it doesn't just boost productivity, it builds confidence. You start the day with wins, you feel in control, not controlled. You're steering the ship instead of drifting wherever the current takes you. Of course, it won't always be easy. Your bed will feel warm, your excuses will sound convincing, your old habits will pull at you. But here's the reality: the comfort of staying the same will never match the reward of stepping into who you're meant to be. You don't have to overhaul your entire life to make this work, you just need to start small. Maybe it's getting up 10 minutes earlier, maybe it's protecting the first half hour after you wake up from all outside input. Over time, that window of focus grows, and so do you. Something powerful happens when you experience the quiet before the noise. You start to think bigger, you start to feel lighter, you begin your day grounded instead of scattered. And the best part, this habit doesn't just impact your mornings, it changes how you handle challenges, how you make decisions, and how you interact with people all day long. Because you're not carrying the tension of starting rushed, you've already built your foundation before the first problem even shows up. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to have more time, more focus, more results, it's not that they're magically more disciplined. It's that they've learned to take ownership of the moments the rest of the world ignores. They've decided that their first moments matter too much to give away to anyone or anything else. They've learned to master the morning before the morning masters them. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you willing to trade a little comfort for a lot of clarity? Are you willing to give yourself the gift of starting on your own terms? Because that one choice, repeated daily, is how you start stacking wins, and when you stack enough wins, you change the game. Start before the world wakes up, and you'll never go back. When you open your eyes in the morning, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads you into the same cycle most people fall into, reacting to whatever comes their way. The other path is different. It's intentional. It's where you decide, before anything else, what this day is going to mean for you. That choice, right there in the first hour, determines more than you think. It's the difference between a day that happens to you and a day you shape with your own hands. The truth is, most people burn their best energy on the wrong things. They give their sharpest focus to answering messages, handling minor tasks, or getting pulled into someone else's priorities. By the time they get to what matters most, they're already drained, and here's what's crazy, they don't even realize it's happening. They think they're being productive because they're busy, but busy isn't the same as effective. The real key to multiplying your results is simple. Take the first hour of your day and align it directly with your biggest goals. Think of it like this: you wake up with a full tank of mental fuel. If you burn it on distractions first, you're running on fumes by the time you reach the work that truly matters. But if you direct that fresh energy toward the things that move your life forward, you'll find yourself making more progress in an hour than you usually do in a whole day. That's not motivation talking, that's strategy. This is where the golden hour comes in. Your first 60 minutes after waking aren't just another block of time. They're prime real estate for your brain and your focus. If you fill them with your highest priorities, you stack the deck in your favor before the day even has a chance to test you. That might mean working on a project you've been avoiding. It might mean exercising, reading, writing, planning, or anything else that directly connects to your long-term goals. The key is that you choose it intentionally. You decide it before you go to bed the night before. That way, when morning comes, you're not wasting willpower deciding what to do, you just get to it. And here's something you have to understand: alignment beats effort every single time. You can push yourself hard all day on things that don't matter and end up exhausted with nothing to show for it. Or you can spend one focused hour on the right thing and watch how it compounds. When your actions match your vision, the results feel almost unfair. But this doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you protect that first part of your day like it's sacred. It also means you start your day creating, not consuming. That's a big one. If you open your phone first thing and start scrolling, you're letting other people's words, images, and opinions set the tone for your mind. Instead of building your own day, you're letting theirs spill into yours. That's like walking into your neighbor's house in the morning and letting them rearrange your furniture. You wouldn't do that physically, but we do it mentally all the time. Starting in creation mode, whether that's brainstorming, problem solving, or simply journaling your intentions, flips the switch from being a passive player in life to being an active one. You might be thinking, but I have a lot to do. I can't just ignore my emails or messages. And you're right, at some point, you'll need to handle them, but here's the shift: they don't get your best self. They get what's left after you've given your peak energy to your purpose. It's not selfish, it's smart. You can't pour into everything and everyone if you've got nothing in reserve. Over time, this habit does something powerful. It builds momentum. At first, it might feel like a small change, an hour in the morning focused on your top priority. But day after day, week after week, you'll see something different. The projects you've been stuck on will move forward. The goals you've been dreaming about will get closer, and the person you see in the mirror will start to look like someone who's in control of their life, not just surviving it. The beauty of aligning your first hour with your biggest goals is that it doesn't require huge discipline or a major lifestyle overhaul. It just requires a decision. You decide, this is my time, and I'm going to use it for what matters most. That decision, repeated over and over, becomes part of who you are, and once it's part of who you are, it's no longer a struggle, it's simply how you operate. If you want proof this works, think back to the times in your life when you've made the most progress on something important. Chances are, you didn't do it by cramming it in at the end of a busy day, you did it by making it a priority, by giving it the best of your attention. That's exactly what the first hour of your day can do for you, every single day, if you let it. And here's the last thing I'll say, you don't have to be perfect with this, you don't have to hit it every single day without fail. Life happens, but even if you do it 3 or 4 days a week, you'll still see a massive shift. Because the compound effect doesn't care about perfection, it cares about consistency. Those hours add up. They change the direction of your life quietly, steadily, and faster than you expect. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, ask yourself one question. What's the most important thing I can do today that moves me closer to my goals? And then do that first, before the noise, before the distractions, before the world wakes up. Because if you own the first hour, you can own the day. Your mornings are like a launch pad. How you fire off determines the entire flight of your day, and yet, most people start their mornings like they're dragging themselves out of a ditch, slow, scattered, maybe even frustrated before the day has really begun. The difference between dragging through your morning and launching into it with focus often comes down to one thing: how you activate your mind, your body, and your spirit the moment you wake up. You can think of it like flipping on 3 switches. When all 3 are on, you're fully alive, fully ready, and you step into your day with strength instead of sluggishness. The first switch is your body. We underestimate just how much our physical state drives everything else. If your body is tired, stiff, or tense, it's almost impossible to think clearly or feel motivated. That's why movement first thing in the morning is so powerful. And no, it doesn't have to be a full workout that leaves you drenched in sweat. It can be as simple as stretching, taking a short walk, doing a few push-ups, or some deep breathing to wake your system up. When you get your blood moving, your energy rises, your brain gets more oxygen, you feel alert instead of foggy. You're sending a message to yourself: we're up, we're ready, let's go. The second switch is your mind. Waking up your mind isn't about cramming it with information right away, it's about feeding it something intentional and positive before the world tries to fill it with noise. This could be reading a chapter of a book that inspires you. It could be listening to something that challenges your thinking or lifts your perspective. It could even be sitting in silence for a few minutes and letting your thoughts settle. The goal here is clarity, not clutter. The earlier you set your mind on something meaningful, the harder it is for the day's chaos to knock you off balance later. The third switch is your spirit, and this is the one most people overlook, but it's the one that can anchor everything else. Your spirit is your inner compass, the part of you that needs direction, purpose, and grounding. Activating your spirit in the morning can look different for everyone. For some it's prayer, for others it's meditation, gratitude journaling, or simply speaking affirmations over your life. It's the practice of connecting yourself to something bigger than the tasks and deadlines ahead of you. When your spirit is steady, your steps are steady. You don't just react to the day, you respond with intention, because you're rooted in something deeper. Here's the beauty of activating all 3, they feed each other. When you move your body, your mind becomes sharper. When your mind is sharp, your spirit has more room to focus. When your spirit is grounded, your body relaxes and performs better. It's a loop of energy that keeps building instead of draining, and the best part, it doesn't have to take hours. You can do all 3 in 15 minutes if you're intentional, but you have to understand something: this isn't about just going through the motions. You can't half-heartedly stretch, skim a page of a book, and mumble a quick affirmation and expect it to work. The power comes from presence. When you move, really feel the movement. When you read or listen, take in the words and let them challenge you. When you pray, meditate, or practice gratitude, focus on it like it matters, because it does. That's what makes this a habit that actually changes things instead of just filling time. At first, it might feel awkward. Your body might resist the early movement. Your mind might want to wander. Your spirit might feel distant, that's normal. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes over time. It shifts from something you have to remind yourself to do into something you can't imagine starting your day without. You'll notice you're calmer under pressure, you're clearer when making decisions, you have more energy in the afternoon. And those aren't coincidences, they're the ripple effects of starting your mornings with intention in all three areas. You might even notice that your day starts to feel lighter, not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you're carrying it differently. That's what happens when your body is energized, your mind is clear, and your spirit is strong before you even walk out the door. Problems still come, but they don't knock you down as easily. Opportunities show up, and you're ready to grab them. You're not just awake, you're fully alive. One thing you'll learn as you keep doing this is that the world won't protect this time for you. If you don't guard it, it'll get taken over by distractions. That's why you have to see it as non-negotiable. The same way you wouldn't skip brushing your teeth or eating breakfast, you don't skip activating your mind, body, and spirit. It becomes part of your identity, and once it's part of your identity, it's harder to break than to keep. This isn't about perfection. You don't have to get it right every single day. There will be mornings when you oversleep, mornings when you travel, mornings when life throws you off schedule. That's fine. What matters is that you come back to it, because the consistency is what compounds. You'll find that the days you start this way almost always go better than the days you don't. And that realization alone will keep you coming back. When you think about your future self, the one who's sharper, more focused, more in control of their life, this is one of the habits that version of you will already have mastered. And here's the good news, you don't have to wait until you've become that person. You can start living like them now. Flip those 3 switches tomorrow morning, and watch how different the rest of your day feels, because when you start your morning by fully activating your body, mind, and spirit, you don't just wake up, you rise. Clarity is one of the most underrated advantages you can have in life. It's not that people don't work hard, most people are working harder than ever. The problem is they are working hard on things that don't actually move them forward. They're busy all day but not building anything that matters. And a lot of that comes down to how they start their day. If you don't decide what matters most before the noise starts, the noise will decide for you. That's why creating a simple clarity map every morning can completely change your results. It's not complicated, it's not time-consuming. But it is intentional, and that's where the power is. The clarity map is exactly what it sounds like, a quick outline of where you're going that day and how you'll get there. Think of it like checking a compass before you start hiking. You could walk for hours without a plan, but you might be walking in circles. Or you could spend 2 minutes looking at the map, then move with purpose and actually get somewhere. That's what this habit does for your mind. It stops you from wandering through your day hoping to figure it out as you go. Instead, you wake up, you set your direction, and then you move. It starts with choosing your top 3 priorities. Not 30, not 13, 3, because when everything is important, nothing is important. If you give yourself too many targets, you'll hit none of them. These 3 priorities should be the things that, if you got nothing else done today, you'd still feel like the day was a win. They're the high-leverage actions that push your biggest goals forward. Sometimes they're big tasks, sometimes they're small steps, but they're always connected to where you're ultimately trying to go. Once you know your top 3, you write them down, and yes, actually write them down, not just in your head. There's something about putting pen to paper that makes it real. It shifts it from an idea to a commitment. When it's written, it's harder to ignore, and the more you do it, the more you start to notice patterns, what keeps making the list, what never gets touched, and where your time is really going. That's valuable feedback. The second part of the clarity map is visualization. It's not enough to know what you need to do, you have to see yourself doing it. This isn't daydreaming, this is mental rehearsal. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself actually completing those 3 priorities. See the steps you'll take, imagine how it will feel when they're done. The brain responds to imagery in a powerful way. When you can see it, you start to believe it's possible, and when you believe it's possible, you're more likely to take the action. What makes this habit so powerful is how it eliminates distractions before they start. If you've already decided, These are my 3 wins for today. It's much easier to say no to the things that don't fit. Opportunities that don't align become easier to pass on. Urgent requests that aren't actually important become easier to delegate or delay. You stop reacting to whatever pops up, because you're already committed to what matters most. And here's the thing, this doesn't just make you more productive, it makes you more present. When you're clear about your priorities, you're not constantly worrying about what you should be doing, you know. You've decided, so when you're working, you can focus without guilt. And when you're done, you can rest without that nagging feeling in the back of your mind that you forgot something important. Some people will tell you they don't have time for this in the morning, and yet they have time to scroll through their phone for 20 minutes or check their inbox before they're even out of bed. The truth is, this takes less time than brushing your teeth, but the return on investment is massive. You spend 10 minutes creating a map, and it saves you hours of wandering through the day aimlessly. Now, this is important. Your clarity map isn't a rigid schedule. Life will happen, things will come up. The point isn't to follow it perfectly. The point is to have a guide you can keep coming back to when the day tries to pull you off track. Even if you get derailed, you know where to aim when you get back on course. Without that, it's too easy to get lost in the noise and end the day wondering where the time went. Over time, you'll find that this habit starts to influence more than just your mornings. You'll start thinking about your week with the same kind of intentionality. Your month, even your year, because once you see how much more you can get done with clear priorities, you won't want to go back to guessing your way through. It's like someone turned the lights on in a room you've been fumbling around in for years. You can finally see where everything is, and more importantly, where you're going. And maybe the most surprising part is how this builds confidence. When you end the day knowing you've actually moved forward on what matters, you start to trust yourself more. You believe you can set a direction and stick to it. You start each morning not just hoping it will be productive, but knowing it will be. That belief is a game changer. So tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you get pulled into someone else's agenda, take a few minutes to create your clarity map. Pick your top 3, write them down, visualize the wins, and then move into your day knowing exactly where you're headed. Because if you start the day with clarity, you'll finish it with results. Your mind is like the front door to your home. If you leave it wide open in the morning, anything can walk in, and a lot of it doesn't belong there. The problem is, most people start their day with that door unlocked, sometimes even propped open, letting in every bit of noise, fear, and distraction the world throws at them. They think it's harmless to check a headline, scroll through a feed, or respond to a few messages right after waking up. But what they don't realize is that those first moments are when their mental state is the most impressionable. Whatever gets in first sets the tone for the rest of the day. When you wake up, your brain isn't fully guarded yet. It's in a slower, more receptive state, which is perfect for learning and creativity, but also perfect for absorbing negativity if you're not careful. That's why protecting your mental gate in the morning is so important. It's not about pretending the world's problems don't exist. It's about making sure they don't get to hijack your focus before you've even had a chance to set it. If the first thing you see in the morning is an alarming news headline, a social media post that stirs comparison, or a message demanding your attention, your mind instantly goes into reaction mode. You start carrying other people's stress, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies, before you've even decided what your own priorities are. That's like letting strangers walk into your kitchen and rearrange your breakfast before you've had a bite. You can still eat, but it's not on your terms anymore. Protecting your mental gate means being deliberate about what you allow in during those first minutes of the day. It might mean leaving your phone in another room overnight so it's not the first thing you grab. It might mean waiting to check messages until after you've done something that grounds you, like reading, praying, journaling, or exercising. It might mean starting your morning with music that lifts your mood instead of noise that lowers it. The point is, you decide what gets in, you decide what earns the right to shape your mindset. This isn't about being rigid, it's about understanding that your attention is one of the most valuable things you have, and once it's given away, you can't get it back. If you spend your mental energy on small, draining things first, you won't have much left for the big, meaningful things later. That's why people often feel exhausted by mid-morning without having done anything significant. They've already fought a dozen mental battles they didn't even need to be in. When you protect your mental gate, you create a buffer between yourself and the chaos. You're still aware of what's going on in the world, but you get to step into it prepared instead of blindsided. You choose the first voices you hear, you choose the first words you read, you choose the first images your eyes take in. And those choices add up over time. They shape your baseline mood, your ability to focus, and even your resilience under pressure. One way to think about it is like a garden. Your mind is the soil. The first seeds you plant each morning will grow the strongest, because they're given the best conditions. If you plant seeds of peace, focus, and gratitude, they'll take root and spread through the day. But if you let weeds of anxiety, negativity, and distraction drop in first, they'll grow fast too, and you'll spend the rest of the day trying to pull them out. It's far easier to plant intentionally than to spend all day cleaning up the mess. The challenge is, protecting your mental gate requires going against what most people do. You'll see others diving into their phones the second they wake up, responding to messages before they've even brushed their teeth, and you might feel the pull to do the same. But here's the difference. You're not aiming to live like most people. You're aiming for clarity, focus, and results that multiply over time. That means making choices they might not make, even when it feels uncomfortable at first. You'll also notice that when you stop letting the wrong things in first, the right things have more room to grow. You might find yourself having better ideas in the morning. You might feel more patient with people. You might notice problems don't stick to you the way they used to, because your mind isn't starting the day already cluttered. This isn't just about productivity, it's about peace, and peace, once it's built into your morning, has a way of following you into every part of your day. Think about the last time you started a day in a rush, checking messages, jumping from one distraction to the next. How did the rest of that day feel? Now think about a time you started with calm. Maybe it was on a vacation, maybe it was a weekend when you weren't in a hurry. The day probably felt completely different, not because of what happened, but because of how you entered it. That's what protecting your mental gate does. It gives you that same grounded, intentional start no matter what day of the week it is. And the truth is, the more consistently you do this, the more you'll notice the difference on the days you don't. You'll feel the clutter fester, you'll recognize the mental noise quicker, and that awareness will make it easier to get back on track. That's how habits stick, not just because you see the benefit, but because you can clearly feel the cost of breaking them. So tomorrow morning, before you let the world in, ask yourself, what do I want to let into my mind first today? Then guard that choice like it matters, because it does, because if you protect your mental gate, you protect everything that comes after. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They'll sprint for a week, maybe two, riding on a wave of excitement, only to burn out when the results don't show up fast enough. Then they stop, feel frustrated, and tell themselves it didn't work. The truth is, it wasn't the method that failed them, it was the lack of consistency. Big results don't come from big, rare efforts. They come from small, intentional actions done over and over until they're part of you. And when it comes to mornings, one powerful habit, repeated daily, will produce more impact than a dozen of perfect mornings scattered throughout the month. Consistency is like compound interest. It doesn't look like much in the beginning. You'll wake up early a few days, align your first hour with your priorities, move your body, map your day, protect your mental gate, and you might not notice a dramatic shift right away. But each day you do it, you're making a deposit into your future, you're building momentum, and just like a savings account, those deposits start to multiply. One day you look up and realize you've created a rhythm so natural, so ingrained, that skipping it feels uncomfortable. That's when you know you've turned a habit into part of your identity. This is where most people go wrong. They chase intensity instead of consistency. They'll overhaul their entire morning routine overnight, load it with 5 new habits, and try to do them all perfectly. It's impressive for a few days, but it's not sustainable. Life will get busy, something will throw them off, and they'll stop altogether. The smarter approach is to start small. Pick one habit, maybe it's your clarity map, maybe it's protecting your mental gate, and commit to it every single morning, no matter what. Once that's automatic, add the next one, layer them over time, and you'll find yourself building a morning routine that's bulletproof because it's built on the foundation of consistency, not perfection. And here's the thing about consistency, it's not just about the physical act of doing something every day. It's about the trust you build with yourself in the process. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your confidence. You start to believe you can follow through, not just when you feel motivated, but when you don't. That belief is a superpower, because life will not always line up perfectly for you to have an ideal morning. There will be days when you wake up tired, days when you're traveling, days when something unexpected happens before sunrise. But if you've trained yourself to stay consistent, you'll find a way to keep the habit alive, even if it's in a smaller form. That's what keeps the momentum from breaking. Think about it like this: if you miss the gym for 2 weeks, starting again feels hard. You lose strength, rhythm, and motivation, but if you keep showing up, even on days you don't feel like it, the effort becomes lighter because the habit itself carries you. Your mornings are the same way. You don't need perfection, you need enough consistency that the habit starts to run on autopilot. One of the easiest ways to stay consistent is to lower the barrier to entry. If your morning habit takes an hour, it might be easy to talk yourself out of it on a busy day. But if you make the minimum version of it 5 or 10 minutes, you can always fit it in. For example, maybe you normally spend 20 minutes writing your clarity map and visualizing your day, but on a rushed morning, you just jot down your top 3 priorities on a sticky note. It's not perfect, but it keeps the chain unbroken, and that's the point. Protect the chain, don't let the habit die, even if it has to be smaller for a day. You'll also find that consistency changes your relationship with results. When you're inconsistent, you tend to obsess over outcomes. You keep asking, is it working yet? And that impatience often leads you to quit before it ever had a chance to work. But when you're consistent, you stop chasing instant proof. You trust the process because you've seen the deposits add up over time. You know that even if you can't see the growth today, it's happening under the surface, and one day, it breaks through. This is why consistency often feels slow but works fast. It's like planting seeds and nothing seems to be happening for weeks, then suddenly you see growth everywhere. But if you kept digging up the seeds to check on them, they'd never grow. The same goes for your morning habit. Plant it, water it, repeat. The growth will take care of itself. Of course, there will be days you slip. That's human. The key is not to let one missed day turn into a missed week. Miss once and get back to it immediately. Treat the habit like something you can't afford to lose, because you can't. Every time you restart right away, you reinforce to yourself that this is who you are, someone who follows through. And the more you identify with that, the easier it is to stay consistent long term. What's amazing is how this one skill, showing up every morning, starts to spill over into every other part of your life. You become more reliable, more disciplined, more focused. Your relationships improve because you're more grounded. Your work improves because you're more intentional. Your confidence grows because you've proven, day after day, that you can count on yourself, and all of that comes from doing something small, repeatedly, until it becomes second nature. So don't get caught up in trying to make every morning perfect. Perfect is a trap. Aim for consistent instead. Build the kind of morning routine you can keep doing on your best days and your worst days. Protect it, nurture it, and let it carry you toward the results you've been chasing. Because in the end, the magic isn't in doing it once, it's in doing it again tomorrow. If this message spoke to you, don't just let it fade when the video ends. Make today the day you start. Take this habit, apply it tomorrow morning, and watch the difference unfold. And if you're ready for more tools that will sharpen your mind, strengthen your spirit, and 10x your results, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way you won't just hear the next message, you'll be ready to live it. Your best life doesn't wait, neither should you.